All right. Thank you very much. McDonald Morris, please take it away.
Good evening and welcome everybody. My name is Mac Morris. I'm the Youth Programming Coordinator and Acting Co-Chair of the Coalition's DEI Event Subcommittee, along with Chester, who will, right after I finish this intro, will present the presenters for this evening, and then also give us the lay of the land of how the evening will go and what it will look like. As folks know, the event subcommittee was formed through our agency's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging, which is always about centering the voices of those whose histories, stories, and bodies have been marginalized, disenfranchised, or disregarded. Our subcommittee has been committed to bringing important scholarship and critical voices on significant topics regarding DEI for over 4 years now, to our entire coalition and all of our families, and we serve it on a public format such as this. And our subcommittee has brought on scholars such as Loretta Ross, Dorothy Roberts, speakers such as the executive director of PFLAG, former director, and presenters of lived experiences like the few that you'll hear this evening, and conducted panel discussions on the various intersections of race and adoption, unlearning racism, transracial adoption, how to support and nurture our LGBTQ children, tracing and uncovering roots of trauma, in short. So tonight our presenters will explore further dialogue around hair care and self-esteem, identity and belonging, which was jump-started at our previous event, which was titled Locks, Not Dreads. So really happy for those of us who are here to continue this dialogue, and I'll turn it over to Chester to introduce the presenters and the lay of the land for the
Wonderful,
event.
wonderful. Thank you, Mac. I always have the inclination to say Mac Daddy, and that's probably wrong. So I'm not going to say that. Thank you, Mac. I just wanted to, of course, thank our friends at the parent gathering for giving us the space, sharing it. Again, my fault for any of the blunders that we had. I didn't really pay enough attention to the details, and that has always been a problem of mine in life. I'm just like a big picture guy. I'm not very good with the incidentals. So I'm glad you're here, though. Michelle, it's good to see you and all you guys. And I think this is going to be very enjoyable. We're gonna show a short video, and then we're going to have Miss Betty, and Betty Hinton is one of our family support specialists, and Alicia Murray is one of our family support specialists, and they also happen to be mother and daughter, and they're going to share their hair journey, and they're a big part of how this whole thing developed. The idea that hair care is more than just a necessary inconvenience. I mean, it has, and I think what's special about it for us as adoptive and foster parents is it has an opportunity to be a genuine way that we as parents can connect with our children in an intimate way that also can feel very safe, as long as we have the right attitude about it. And that's what I think makes it important, because it's an opportunity to build some connections that not a whole lot of other experiences that we have to do as parents have the power to do. It really can be transformative. So, okay. I think that's it. I'm going to try to show the first video. It's about 20 minutes. So relax, sit back, have some chips. I just wanted to, so one more, it's from Canadian television. So, and it's French Canadian. So there's a part of it they're doing this French kind of English thing. It features these young ladies getting their hair did, as they say, having their hair treated. And it's just such a loving treatment of these young, beautiful women. And we wanted to kind of start off with that kind of energy. But that's why it's, you got a little French English thing going on. Okay, let's, as they say, go to the videotape.
Ways actually improve my health, improve myself.
That's good.
Donc c'est bon? I don't like to say you have kinky hair because I find like it's saying something negative. I rather say I have tight curl pattern. Je dis jamais j'ai les cheveux durs. On n'a pas les cheveux durs. Du bois, c'est dur. Nos cheveux sont juste frisés serrés. Faut toujours qu'on dise des choses à propos de nous qui sont positifs, right? We're supposed to empower each other. So we never say to a girl, oh, your hair is hard or your hair is kinky. We just say, you know what? Your hair has a tighter curl pattern, but we can do something beautiful with it. OK? Toujours. Bonjour les filles. Bonjour. Ça va bien? How are you guys today? Good. Good. Vous avez hâte de faire l'atelier?
Ouais.
So my name is Nancy Felez, and I grew up just hating my hair. I wasn't accepted as a biracial girl in my high school, and with my afro, I got teased all the time. As soon as my mom gave me the okay, I wanted to straighten my hair. I wish someone like me would have taught me when I was younger. Alicia, Ashley, tu vas t'asseoir ici, on va commencer avec vous pour le shampoing. J'ai une question pour vous. Does this happen to you a lot, that people want to just touch your hair?
Yes. Ouais.
Une fille à l'école, quand je porte des chignons de même, elle vient tout le temps comme peser dessus, je sais pas pourquoi.
I don't like it when people touch my hair. You're not respecting my bubble.
I kind of feel like it's rude because
Yeah.
I wouldn't go up to somebody and just like.
Touch their hair. Yeah, I feel you.
My name is Ashley, and I'm in 7th grade. My favorite subject in school is drama because I don't like drama, but I like drama. I'm really generous. I love to share anything I have, but I will not share food because I really like my food.
Si on se lave les cheveux une fois par semaine, on devrait faire toujours 2 shampoings. OK? C'est bon? On va commencer à laver les cheveux?
Ouais.
I don't wear my hair down often at school or really anywhere because it looks messy or it looks bad. I feel like everyone else who does it with straight hair looks really good. Hair is such a big part of our life, our body, like everything. You really want to like impress people with your hair or just fit in. Like there are things that I won't do anymore because I'm scared that people will judge me. I feel like it's really sad because that's the way like I was born with curly hair, so I should just do my hair the way I want to, but I feel like I'm living for the world kind of, which sucks.
Commercials are everywhere. I hate them.
Je m'appelle Bianca et j'ai 11 ans. Mon groupe de musique préféré, c'est BTS. Je sais pas si tu connais ça. C'est un groupe de chanteurs, de Coréens. Là. Quand je vais être grande, j'aimerais ça aller en Corée et travailler dans une garderie en Corée.
À partir d'aujourd'hui, hein, tu vas apprendre une nouvelle façon de te démêler les cheveux pour plus jamais que tu aies des nœuds comme ça, OK, mon chou? Parce que tu as des cheveux magnifiques, Bianca.
OK.
Si on te fait mal, on s'excuse, mais on n'a pas le choix, OK?
Je les porte quand même pas souvent, détachés. Ça fait trop gonfler, puis j'ai comme jamais aimé ça depuis que je suis toute petite, depuis que je les laisse détacher. C'est quand ils ils se mettent en pain, je sais pas trop, là, mais c'est comme un gros nœud, puis ça fait vraiment mal là, quand j'ai des mains.
Est-ce que tu as de la peine, Bianca?
Non.
Est-ce que ça vous arrive des fois de vouloir démêler les cheveux puis que c'est tellement mêlé qu'on a le goût de pleurer?
Oui. Ouais.
Est-ce que c'est grave de pleurer parce que nos cheveux sont mêlés puis ça nous fait mal?
Non.
C'est pas grave du tout. C'est une émotion. Ça fait mal, ça tire. Puis moi, je dis toujours, c'est mieux de pleurer. Il y a plus de place à l'extérieur qu'à l'intérieur. Je vais vous raconter quelque chose de vraiment rapidement. Pourquoi moi j'ai arrêté de me défriser les cheveux. When I had cancer and I lost all my hair, I felt really, really, really unattractive. But when my hair grew back, I understood that I don't need to have straight hair to be beautiful. That my curly hair is fantastic. Et pour moi, c'est ça que je veux que vous compreniez aujourd'hui. Vous êtes belle avec vos textures de cheveux, que ça soit un petit peu frisé, des petites boucles, des boucles très serrées, vous êtes magnifique. Breast cancer was the best, worst thing that's happened to me. 7 years this year. I'm in 7 years full remission. And I'm sorry, but it's a big, big thing for me, 7 years, because when I went in and I found out that I had breast cancer, you know, it was an aggressive kind. And he said, if in 7 years you're still here, you made it. And I'm here. Ready to start styling our hair, making ourselves even more fabulous? Mm-hmm. Yes? You have the nourishing cream. You guys see it on your station? Alors, vous allez prendre une première pompe, puis vous allez commencer à faire ça comme ça. I suggest that you guys part your hair in 4, from the front to the back, and from the ears to the ears. On commence par où à démêler, les filles?
La pointe.
Fait que dès qu'on commence à séparer les cheveux puis qu'on commence à démêler, on vient contrôler cette section-là. Vous m'avez bien vu?
Oui.
OK. Si vous ne prenez pas votre section tout de suite et vous la contrôlez, qu'est-ce que vous pensez qui va se passer avec cette section-là?
Des nœuds.
Voilà.
J'adore les activités qui font de la sensation. Toutes les manèges les plus hauts qui font peur. J'aime ça. Je m'appelle Hélène et j'ai 12 ans. Ça fait 2 ans que je suis au Canada. Et j'ai grandi avec ma grand-mère en Guinée-Conakry, en Afrique. J'aimerais devenir médecin comme ma grand-mère. Ma grand-mère est morte, ça fait même pas 1 an. Je savais qu'elle allait mourir parce que dans mes rêves, il était venu me dire qu'elle allait mourir.
Ladies, listen up. The video showing the pink salt trick that melts belly fat while you sleep has already passed.
J'ai pas pu pleurer, j'avais trop de la peine. J'ai fini.
Parfait. Naïma, tu veux que Hélène t'aide un peu?
Ouais.
OK.
J'ai voulu participer à l'atelier pour apprendre à prendre soin de mes cheveux. Parce qu'avant, c'était ma grand-mère. Et ici, il faut que je me débrouille. Tu peux m'aider à démêler ça?
Oui. Elle a un petit nœud, hein?
Oui.
Regarde, je vais te donner un petit truc, OK? Tiens le cheveu comme ça.
Oui.
Comme ça, tu as plus de contrôle. Sur les cheveux de Bianca, aujourd'hui, on va faire une définition de boucle. Une définition de boucle se fait sur un cheveu très mouillé. Je prends ma brosse. Penche la tête un petit peu vers l'avant.
Wow. Wow.
Je mets du gel sur mes mains. Regardez la différence entre ça ici et ça là. Est-ce que c'est beau ça?
Ouais. Je veux
OK.
après.
Est-ce que Bianca, t'es d'accord que les filles essayent une section sur toi puis toi, tu vas essayer une section sur elles?
Oui.
T'es d'accord avec ça?
Oui.
Qui veut l'essayer la première?
Moi.
Je savais que c'était une de vous deux.
Je m'appelle Naïma, j'ai 11 ans. J'aimerais ça que, je sais pas, aller aux Olympiques en athlétisme. L'émission que j'ai vraiment eu un coup de cœur dessus, c'est Gilmore Girl. C'est vraiment bon. Je sais que c'est quelque chose que beaucoup de gens disent, mais c'est comme vrai. J'admire ma mère, elle est toujours là pour moi. Puis c'est comme ma sœur, là, c'est comme ma best friend. Que moi, j'ai de la misère à avoir confiance en moi avec mes cheveux. Des gens que je connais dans ma classe qui ont les cheveux comme moi, leur mère, ils ont les cheveux pareils, donc je crois que leur mère peut plus comprendre. Je suis la seule que ma mère, elle est blanche, elle a les cheveux droits, puis que moi, j'ai les cheveux frisés. C'est sûr que ma mère peut pas comprendre, mais elle pourra jamais comprendre c'est quoi le feeling d'avoir mes cheveux. Mais ça, c'est pas de sa faute, puis je l'en veux pas à cause de ça, là. C'est juste que c'est ce qui est ça, là.
Et regarde. Oui, voilà. You see, your hand becomes like a comb. Parfait? C'est très bien. Très bien pour une première section, Naïma. OK?
Merci.
Hélène, tu fais la prochaine?
Oui.
Perfect. Les filles, j'ai une question pour vous. Alicia, est-ce que vous pensez qu'elle pourrait faire une définition de boucle d'après vous?
Non. Ouais.
Ça te dit non? Pourquoi tu penses qu'elle ne pourrait pas faire une définition de boucle?
Parce que, like, her curls aren't defined enough. Peut-être un gel un peu plus fort, parce que, comme mes cheveux sont un peu difficiles.
Les cheveux sont pas difficiles.
OK.
OK? Qu'est-ce que j'avais dit de l'autre côté? Pas de trucs négatifs quand tu parles de toi ou de tes cheveux. Tu as juste une texture différente. Alors, regarde comment on va le faire sur ses cheveux.
I can answer a bit in English and a bit in French. Je m'appelle Alicia et j'ai 14 ans. I like watching soccer and playing soccer. I will describe me as une personne souriante. La danse compétitive, j'ai commencé à 11 ans, 12 ans. Ouais. Et il fallait que mes cheveux ils soient droits pour faire un bun. Vu que les gels, ça plaquait pas mes cheveux, on a dû faire la permanente. On m'a pas vraiment obligée, mais en fait, c'est moi qui voulais comme... Je voulais comme dans ce temps-là plus ressembler aux autres cheveux et tout, alors je voulais mettre la permanente.
Breathe new life into your future with Laurel's respiratory therapy program. Learn a basic
Regarde ses cheveux. T'as vu ça?
Ouais, ça marche.
T'as vu?
Quand je suis entrée à l'école secondaire, j'ai vu plusieurs filles qui étaient un peu plus vieilles que moi, qui portaient leurs cheveux naturels, et ça m'a étonnée. C'est comme un peu ça qui m'a dit que ok, je peux porter mes cheveux naturels parce que si eux ils sont capables, alors moi aussi je peux le faire.
Guys, I wanted to show you something else that you guys could do in your hair, which is called a twist. We're going to show you on Helen. On mouille. On met un petit peu de beurre sur le bout de vos doigts et on vient faire comme ça. Your turn, Ashley. On va les sécher. On va devoir les sécher, ces cheveux, pour les défaire pour que ça fasse une belle boucle. Did you see how your hair is looking? Bianca, t'as vu tes cheveux dans le miroir? C'est incroyable. T'as des magnifiques boucles. À l'école demain, ça va chauffer, hein? You guys almost done? Let's see where you at. If I was you, I would add just a little bit more gel just right here. The rest is really good. Laisse-moi voir toi. T'as vu les boucles que t'es capable d'aller chercher? Est-ce que vous avez vu les boucles de les cheveux de Alicia? Hélène, t'as vu comment tu tresses bien? Et puis je pense qu'on a terminé. Qu'est-ce que vous en pensez? Est-ce que vous avez aimé ça, l'atelier?
Ouais.
Est-ce que vos cheveux, vous pensez que vous pouviez faire ça avant de venir aujourd'hui? Est-ce que toi, tu savais que tes cheveux pouvaient faire des belles boucles comme ça? Est-ce que vous vous trouvez tous aussi entre vous belles?
Ouais.
Tous différentes, mais belles, right? Puis pourtant, on est toutes différentes, mais on a chacun une beauté. We teach others. I teach you guys, now you go home and you teach others. Si vous voyez une fille à l'école, est-ce que vous trouvez qu'elle se sent pas bien, qu'elle a une estime de soi faible, qu'est-ce qu'on fait? On l'aide. We uplift each other. If all the women uplifted each other, it would be a better world. OK? Alors, on se remonte au lieu de s'abaisser, les filles. Cool?
Yeah.
Cool.
I can't help but smile at all those smiling faces. That was just too cute. So I wanted to ask folks what did they think? What off the top of your head, what kind of came up for you?
I personally, I think it was very informative. I think it was very helpful. I felt good about her teaching the young girls not to feel bad about their hair, no matter which curl pattern it was in, because we all have different ones.
Yeah.
And I wish that more girls had an opportunity to experience something like that, because so many
Yeah.
don't have that opportunity.
Yeah. And it was a lot of work, right? Clearly it was a lot.
Believe me, that's one of the
lot of-
things that I make no bones about telling parents of children with hair like ours, that it is not an easy thing. It is a lot of work. And, washing it and then combing it out afterwards, because of the tight curl pattern, as she calls it,
Yeah.
it is a lot of work, which means your arms are going to get tired. You might have to take a rest in between. You might have to take a break. You might have to have lunch and whatever. But it does take a good amount of time, unless you have the other type of hair, which is not very usual. So this hair does take a good amount of time, and it's not easy. It's time, and there's a few products you have to use. You can't just wash it and say, okay, that's it. There's products you have to put into it, or else it will revert right back to everything that it was before. So it is very time consuming, and it is tiring.
New language. What was it called? Curl patterns? What was it?
Tight.
Tight curl pattern.
Okay.
See, my mother used to call it your nappy head, but now they do it nicely for us and say you have a tight curl pattern.
Okay.
So that was, but back in the day, it was you had a nappy head. That's what they used to call it.
Yeah.
But now
And that's
it's a
that
nice
negative
way of
self-talk
saying
she was talking
you
about.
have a tight curl pattern. So I kind of like the way the language that they're using to make people feel better about themselves and about their hair.
Yeah.
That, they can feel good because they have a tight curl pattern now.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mac. You were saying something. You were going to say something.
I was just going to say, I think the power or the importance of how we use language is so deeply tied to how we construct ourselves, right? But also self-love. Because you can literally see in that clip, the moments where the girls looked a little forlorn or sad and their heads were down and, anticipating some kind of negative reaction. Because, I mean, how many of us have had that experience of constantly being bombarded with some kind of negative language or jargon to associate with our hair? And in that time, as you just mentioned, Betty, like it does take time, but like I love how that time can be filled. That time can be filled with transforming or reframing the language. So that these young girls, you see their posture changed and their, bodies shifted.
And they were, and it could feel that you could feel the embarrassment begin to leave each one of them as it went on and on. Because at first you could see that they were a little embarrassed about the different textures of hair that they had and didn't want theirs to be like the center of attention. But as it went on, you could see they sort of broke down and began to feel more comfortable with each other and sharing the looks of their hair with one another.
Yeah. And the stylist was active about the love she was exchanging and the fact that she was encouraging the girls to not have the negative self-talk and all of that kind of stuff. And it all begins with that kind of encouragement. That brings us to the first question, which is, what role does hair care play in the bonding experience between a caregiver and a child? If you guys talk a little bit about what role hair care plays.
For me, as an adopted child, hair care with my mom was the bonding. That's how we bonded while she did my hair, and washed it and talked to me while doing the hair. I was adopted with a negative perception of natural beauty, because I like to look at it as a whole. We're not just our hair. We're, you know, all of us is, you know, one being. And I used to think anything that was not straight, as the girl said in the video, or
Yep.
blonde, or just a certain look that was in magazines, then it was not good. And my mom, although we did look at hair as tight curls or hair that was considered kinky as being unmanageable, but with TLC you could manage it. And it was um her instilling that no, you just need a little more time with it. It's going to take you a few hours maybe to get to achieve the look you want. Um, but we're going to get there. And I think, that is what had me gave me a different perspective on natural hair and accepting and loving my hair, because, we grew up in a household where extensions, magic hair and perms were not allowed. So you almost had no choice but to, over time start looking in that mirror and accepting what you saw. And although now as an adult, I have lots of variety, and I do, have I play with different options, different hair texture, but I do love my natural as well. And I think that took a long time to get there, but through the bonding experience that I had with my mom, um, and just loving myself and looking in the mirror, and she would actually look at me in the mirror and say, "This is a beautiful child." Like that's really what, because without having something else going on my head, it was almost like I didn't even see myself. And I think with her, um, that bonding time that we had through the years, and even now, because I'm a grown adult in my 20s, something like that.
Girl.
Grown. Um, but my mom and I, we still have our bonding with hair, everything, with hair. So hair is definitely the great connector as mother and daughter for us. But
And talk about how it's changed. How are you passing that on to your children?
well, I have a little girl that I'm raising, and with her, I've been having her hair done in braids, which is more of a protective hairstyle. But out of the braids, when I take the braids out, um, she loves her hair, her natural hair. And so I kind of teach her the balance of, to balance I guess, to look at herself without braids as beautiful and with braids, because she loves the braids. She loves, the different options and what she can do with the styles. But she also loves when it's out, and she loves playing in it and the process of washing it. And it does take 3 to 4 hours to do her hair, but that time, and she's only 5, but that time that we have doing that, she looks forward to. We have snacks. It's a whole process, and so yeah, but in having her hair in a protective hairstyle, which is the braids, I think it's really important to also drive the narrative of you're beautiful in both,
What does that protective hairstyle mean? What does that mean? What are we protecting?
protective hair, because she's very active. She's all over. She's in gymnastics, ballet. So protective hairstyle meaning like her natural hair is braided, so it's not like all over the place. She rolls around. She's on the floor.
Gotcha.
She's a busy little one.
Not to cut you off, Elise, but not only that, but because of the fact that with the curl pattern that our hair have, we seem to attract more moisture, which means our hair becomes,
tightens up.
Yeah,
more.
tightens up really, really quick. And if you're out in the sun, you start sweating and all of that, you can feel your hair starting to swell up and grow. It'll start growing out from where you have it at, just from the moisture that it intakes. So one of those protective hairstyles is to braid it up and keep it where it doesn't like blow up.
And it also supports the growth and the healthiness of the hair as well. So you kind of get a, you know.
Do you do her hair exclusively? Is it just you, or do you take it to like a place, or how do you handle that?
I have a braider that comes in and braids her hair.
Okay.
So I'm just sitting there, and it's for us, being that I have someone braiding her hair, it's even more. We play games, we do so much in that time. So and she looks forward to it when I tell her, oh, you're gonna get your hair done in 2 days or whatever. She looks forward to it. She says, am I getting it done today, and what time? And she looks forward to it because it's a yeah, definitely a bonding time.
Now,
Yeah.
Alicia, you talk about growing up with Betty. Betty, I'm kind of a little bit curious about your hair background and your hair story when you were coming up. What was that like?
Okay. I grew up with a mother that was raised in the South, deep South, the cotton field and all of that stuff. So she was the type that your hair is your glory, which meant that we couldn't do much of a lot of artificial stuff to our hair growing up.
Okay.
She didn't allow that, which means that your hair had to be more of a natural thing, and you couldn't color it. You couldn't. Now, she did allow us after we got to a certain age to straighten it. So I hurried up and learned how to straighten my hair because I was one of those that was very enthusiastic about doing that, because my hair had one of the tightest curl patterns you've ever seen in your life. And to say that my mother did not like the day that she had to wash and do my hair was an understatement, because it literally took pretty much all day. She would have to take breaks because my hair had a very tight pattern. As a matter of fact, I remember when I first went to a beauty parlor, the lady said, oh, you have what we call virgin hair, which means it hasn't been touched by anything, which means it's there. It's like all compacted and in there. So that was one of the things that I grew up with, not having the opportunity to or add additional stuff to my hair when I was growing up, until I became the young lady where I had my own little job and I could go to the beauty parlor and let her put a perm in my hair or whatever, and grew up. So those were the differences that Alicia didn't have to come up with, because as her mom, I was a little more lenient and I let, her experience different things with my other girls and her, and let them experience different ways of doing their hair and, experiencing their hair, which I didn't have the opportunity of doing until I became an adult. And then I went and tried everything I could. But no, I grew up in a very religious household where my mom was a pastor, and she didn't allow certain things. She didn't like wigs. She didn't like artificial hair. She didn't like extensions. She did not like braids in our hair. None of that. So we had to do any of those things. So it was totally a different experience for me to have my girls and have their 3 heads that I had to work on and make it all pretty. And I really enjoyed it. I just went all out. I did the bow.
Now, some people do have a flair for it and a knack for it. I mean, why is it important for individuals to understand and care for the specific types of hair texture? Because I know back in the day it was nappy or not.
And not only that, it makes you feel pretty. It makes you feel like you're somebody. Like somebody is going to notice me. I'm not going to just fade into the background. You know what I'm saying? And everybody wants to feel that they're important at a certain degree, but if you feel that your hair don't look right, you want to kind of fade into the background because you don't want nobody to notice how bad your hair looks.
Yeah.
So when you feel that your hair is right and everything, and then you feel like everything else kind of falls into place. Because hair, and every woman could tell you, even a man, if their hair is not right, if their haircut is not right, and their lineup is not right, and the edges are not right, they don't feel good. So you want to feel good about yourself, and it starts with the head.
Yeah.
And I would like to interject that, and that could mean in a natural form, just styled, but without any extension, without any color. And if you choose to, add something or, put something on top or not,
Yeah.
Mhm.
um, it's just about feel because you can feel good in any form, whether it's
Yeah.
and it's yeah. And I think that's important to
Mhm.
promote when they're young because like
Yeah.
my little girl is young now, but she already accepts herself, in both lights. She thinks it's funny when all her braids are out and she wants to play with her hair and take pictures with it, so it's yeah.
You talk about how getting her hair done and getting her hair braided is a happy time, is a fun time, even though that can be a sometimes unpleasant experience, right? Is
Yes,
it?
taking it out is not that yeah. Taking it out sometimes is a little getting it put the braids put back in after wash and conditioning and TLC and taking some pictures and playing, but taking it out is not always fun because it's the detangling of the hair. And like my mom said, depending on the texture, although she has a very wavy textured hair, but the curl is still tight. So yeah.
What do you suggest? Because I remember, not from my hair, obviously, but from other people's hair, that can sometimes be a battle. I mean, just to get them to sit
Yes.
still. And I want you to put yourself in the place of an adopted parent who's not familiar with dealing with this kind of hair at all. Forget about fighting with your kid to get the comb through it. How can we make that easier? Or what's your suggestion for adopted? Mac, you got hair too, I mean, you could you can chime in on your thoughts or anybody's thoughts. So how can we make that um, worth the battle worthwhile? I don't want to call it a battle, but I mean realistically, there can be some tugging and some pulling. There was a lot of love in that video, but I know and that a lot of it depends upon the person who's doing the pulling and the tugging.
For
You know,
sure.
if you're doing
Hmm.
it with love or you're doing it with anger, you're doing it. You know what I mean? So talk a little bit about that. And Alicia, you can just think about your little girl. I know that every time you pull the comb out and decide there's something to be done to her hair, she can't always be, oh, good, this is great. I can't wait to have bond with mommy.
No, this is true. Um, but I guess patience is one of the main things you need to have is patience and know that they're gonna need a lot of breaks. Because yeah, which is why it takes 4 hours for her
Yeah.
because there
And I
are
don't
yeah.
and don't just think it's girls. It's our boys too.
Oh, this is
Who
true because yes.
Our boys have a tough time too because they have the same tight curl pattern in their
Yeah.
hair.
Yeah.
And sometimes getting through their hair is as tough as, and they might even have a more sensitive scalp.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And getting through their hair and dealing with that and making them feel good about their hair and doing it every day and brushing it or combing it or whatever things that it needs to put in there. It has a problem with the boys also. It's
Mm-hmm.
not just the girls.
Yeah. And let's talk about product a little bit, right? Because there's a lot of product that we could be using. Like, what do you guys suggest? What should people be?
Everything Carol's daughter. I
Carol's
love
daughter, is that the name of
Carol's
the company?
daughter. Yes.
Okay.
She's a black owned um hair products
Specialist.
specialist hair products, but all her products are really really good on black hair.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I see, Antoinette, you got a hand up there. I'm sorry, Mac, were you going to say something? Hang
Yeah,
on,
well,
Antoinette. Go ahead, Mac.
I just wanted to say that Betty was right on the money when she mentioned that boys, particularly for myself, growing up, not it was not easy for me to constantly find examples of positive reinforcement around my hair. I struggled. I even struggled within my own same race adoptive family.
Mm.
I tell this story, and I don't tell it with a lot of pride, but I tell it to tell the truth about a complexity here. That like I love that we're kind of talking about the positive dimensions, but I don't think we can get to the positive dimensions without really grappling with the reality that so many of us, as children and maybe even still as adults, deal with, which is the level of and I, the level of hate that we can receive. I mean, I was a 9-year-old boy going off to summer camp for the first time. And my parents, it was like a YMCA summer camp, and my parents had told me, you know, what they expected of me. Um, and I do remember being at that summer camp. I was one of like maybe 3 or 4 black boys. And when you're 9 and you're young and you're at summer camp, you just want to, you know, a really powerful, powerful point in that clip where the young girl said, I feel like I'm living for the world, which sucked. You know, and you think about who runs the world, you know, and so as a 9-year-old boy, I clearly was not running that camp, nor were the other boys that looked like me. It was the white boys who were running that camp, and we were just trying to fit in. And I'll never forget at the end of camp when my parents came to get me, I did not take the best care of myself, according to them. And you know, my mom said to me, she was really upset with the way that I looked. I didn't apply lotion to my skin, so I was ashy. And I didn't really take care of my hair because what 9-year-old boy at a summer camp with other boys is going to be taking care of your hair, especially if it's not like a camp that's, you know, proliferated with people who are black, you know, who would know how to take care of your hair. And she said something to me that stuck with me even to this day, you know, and I know that she didn't mean to put me down, but she said it and it came out, and she said, you look like a slave. And I think that was her attempt to make me I don't know, to shock me into
Taking
attention,
care of yourself. Yeah.
you know, but it did do that, but it was a negative reinforcement, you know, and how I wished and I longed to have the positive reinforcement from my mother, from my father, you know, from within my own community. I think within our own community, we often get the negative reinforcement to bring the positive.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how can we reframe and shift that, you know? And so I you know, I just think about that because I think about the young little girls and the young little boys who don't have to live to appease the world outside of them,
Yeah.
you know. And I do think that language is one of the key steps.
Yeah.
Um,
And that was one of the pieces in that clip. And you know, it talked about, and it's funny you mentioned that living for the world too, because I made a note of that. And also the global, I think it really kind of showed the global impact of this stuff, because these weren't American kids, you know, but I mean, it could have been any batch of American girls could have said a lot of the same exact things. You know, it was very, very powerful in that regard, you know. But Antoinette, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're not sorry. No, you know, I'm not talking about product or anything. You know, there was a lot that was said that, you know, I reflect back on, because one of the things that she talked about in there, when we talk about doing here, we want to talk about a bonding experience, but for many of our children, it's not a bonding experience.
Yes.
And it could be very negative. So our approach has to be to understand where that kid is at in terms of, you know, how we comb their hair or what we style their hair and how we style their hair. So, and you could get there with it, because for me, I find it very soothing and very comforting to get my hair shampooed, or to get my, we used to have our scalp greased, and you comb it and you part it, and that whole process of doing your hair. I didn't have 5 hours worth of hair though, Alicia, so it never took me that long to get my hair done.
It was a quicker trip. Huh?
It was a quicker job, right? But it's something, and you know, a lot of what I just was reflecting back when she was talking about how they and she's a beautician, so a lot of what she's saying is based on her training, but it's something that, as not a beautician, I'm quite sure that Betty probably remembers, you know, we used to part our hairs in fours. when
Yeah.
you do that. I was thinking about the parting because that helps also with the detangling and to be able to comb out the sections at a time as opposed to taking one big hunk of hair and trying to yank the coils out of it, as they call them now. Back then it was the naps out of it, but you know, it's a lot to do with the way, the process in which you comb the hair. And she talked about that. You know, she took them through each stages of the shampoo. You shampoo twice. I remember that. The part of your hair 4 ways, all of that. And what, you know, what you were saying, Mac, about what your mom said to you, but you got to remember, and I'm much older than you. I'm probably older than your mama. But one of the things that when we grew up, those connotations were negative connotations that we were taught. What was depicted as beautiful or nice was not us. So if you came home looking a little scruffy and mom said you look like a slave, that's because that's the connotation that we were given in terms of who we were and how we presented ourselves. And I'm quite sure it wasn't meant as, and I know you know that already, a negative thing that your mother felt against you. It's just something that was said. We weren't as sensitive, like you said. We talk now more about language, so we understand that some things like that we do not say to our children now. But some, you know, back then that may have happened because of the language and the depiction of what beauty was and who we were. Of course, you didn't put no lotion on if you were in camp with a bunch of white kids because they don't lotion.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I mean not negatively, people, but you know, we have different skin textures and different processes for taking care of our skin. And you weren't in an environment where that was happening on a daily basis, especially being a kid. I mean, come on. I look, you know, I look at, this has nothing to do with here, but I look, they have a lot of something on YouTube where they show how Black kids' mama prepared them for school with the Vaseline. Did you guys see you see that one? And I just thought it was hilarious because I used to do that to all my kids.
I saw that one up close for many
saw
years.
I
Did
do
they
that
do that to
now.
you,
Not
Matt?
with Vaseline, though. It's
Oh
cocoa
yeah,
butter.
no, that's really true. We really lined them up and did them just like that.
Right? To get them all like that. I do it now. My grandkids laugh at me. Come over here, let grandma shine you up.
That's it.
You know, and get the Vaseline out. But actually it proved it would, but there was something more to that because one of the things was Vaseline is actually insulating. You know that, right? It kept them in the wintertime from the cold on their face and hands and stuff. The Vaseline in their little hands and face and stuff. But anyway, getting back to here. You know, but I thought that it was, I liked the experience of, you know, doing my children. I wasn't very good at braiding, but I tried. I took care of their hair the best I could, but I also liked the comfort of combing their hair and grooming them. So that grooming process was a part of the bonding. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Allison, you had not Allison,
Melissa.
good Lord, Melissa. And it's not like your name is not in the little square. Melissa, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Melissa.
Sure. So something that stood out to me about the video, and then as we're talking now, was I think one of the things that was really great was empowering the girls to also take care of their own hair and each other's hair and learning about it and doing your own hair. When my godchildren, their mom passed away, and when the oldest and the only girl was 9, and before I even got there, they live in Minnesota, and before I even got there, what she was telling me on the phone, this is like day after her mom died, the 9-year-old, she was like, I don't even know how to take care of my hair. I don't even know how to do my hair yet. And that was like one of the first things that like stood out for her as a little Black girl. And her mom did her hair. Her mom like took a lot of pride in that, loved that. It was really important to her. She was then going to be mostly in the care of her grandma, who her grandma was also a Black woman, but never did her kids' hair. Like her mom had done her kids' hair. Like she went to school, got her master's degree, didn't do hair. That was not her thing. And then their dad came from a biracial family, raised by a white mom who like didn't take a lot of pride in hair care. And so that wasn't his vibe at all. And it was like day day one of grieving her mom, one of the first things that was on this 9-year-old girl's mind was, I don't even know how to do my hair yet, right? And so I think that and there are things about, and I used to take them for summers, and one of the first things we would do is we would get her hair braided and we would do certain things. And one of the things that I think helps with the fighting that you said about like the rough of doing the hair, and there can be a struggle in the beginning, is letting kids choose a little bit. Like, it's not that hard to let them put like yellow and purple extensions in for the summer when they're not even in school. Like, it's just hair. There's certain things about it where it's like, it's okay. You don't have to like pick your battles. And if the kid wants yellow braids, let her have yellow braids. And honestly, that sometimes helps you fight through the combing through it. But I think that, like, besides that, I think that one of the things that, like, the regular everyday of doing hair, if you don't necessarily have a caregiver who's great at it, but also separate from that, but just as like something that can be really like important and self-affirming for a young person is learning how to do it themselves, and also like
Yes.
feeling like they're equipped with the tools to do it, making sure you're buying products for kids and that they're learning how to do it, that you're taking time to learn together. Like, you don't have to be an expert in it. And I feel like that was the thing that I learned with my goddaughter when she was 9, was I was like, I didn't know how to do her hair at all. Like that wasn't a thing for me that I knew a lot of, but it was cool. I could watch YouTube videos too, and like we could do it together and we can try things out. And I could ask my friends who were better at it, and like, what products do I immediately need to buy? And they were like, you need some flexi rods and you need to like do a 2-strand twist and you'll be fine. And that'll be the basics that you get covered. And then professionals can do the other stuff. And I feel like that part, but the video like stood out to me was like this. They weren't just like doing kids' hair for them,
Right,
because not
right.
everybody can do that. And not everybody's going to have a caregiver who's going to be a hair person.
Yep.
Which I don't know if y'all know, but Mac does some really good hair, and that was like his side hustle in high school. So
I have no doubt. I have no doubt. He's a man of many talents.
That's a braider right there. But I just think that that's important. And I think that if we can be a part of teaching the kids in our lives, and the kids are in our care, to how to do their own hair, it's really important too.
Yeah. And what you mentioned the product, Melissa, in the chat.
Oh yeah, that's just what I'm using right now for my baby. She's biracial, and she's got a nice little curl pattern developing, and all she needs right now, she's 6 months old, all she needs is just some water and oil. But like this company, I've been really liking them. They're called Boogie and Beans.
Boogie and Beans.
Yeah. And they're Black owned, they're vegan, they're GMO free, all that. They're also cheap. Like,
that's good too.
It's not like, there are some products that are very expensive, and they're not super cheap, but they're also not like super expensive. You can find them on like Amazon or at a beauty supply store, and they're pretty good.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you much. Anybody else have any? Go ahead, Alicia.
There's a hair product called Fro Babies. It's a Black-owned hair product as well. It's called Fro Babies. It's good for hair that is textured. It is super soft. I use it a lot with them. It's the shampoo, conditioner, but it's.
How do you know what you need?
It's a lot of trial and error. Yeah,
Trial and error.
Yeah, because I've tried quite a few things initially with my daughter, and then with the one that worked the best, that's the one.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah. We mess up sometimes.
Go ahead, Betty.
No, we mess up sometimes, and you have to start over. Just wash it out and start over again. So it's a lot of trial and error.
Yeah, don't buy the big jar.
Don't buy the big jar.
Don't buy the big jar until you know it's gonna work. You buy the little one. Yeah, it is. That's the thing. Everybody, even with my kids, every product doesn't work, and everybody's
Right. Exactly.
So you have to know which one is going to be best for your child. If their hair is dry, if their hair that like somebody may need more of the tighter the coil, the more moisturizing they need in it.
Mm-hmm.
So these are things you learn over time when you're taking care of the kids. But it's always good to have suggestions of products that you can try out, because a lot of times, we are not aware of all the products that's out there that could be used on our children's hair.
Yeah,
and it's a good thing. I've gone so far as to put, when my daughter, my youngest of my grown kids was a little girl. I forgot why I started. I used to put olive oil in her hair. She used to go around. She used to smell like a salad. I said,
Smell like a salad. That's just what I was thinking
smell
too.
like a salad.
Put some croutons on there and you'd be straight.
But it worked for her. So I forgot why I started that, but it really worked for her to put the olive oil in her hair and, you know, massage a little scalp. And listen, they put it, they claim it's in the products that you buy in the store. Well, I just took a step further and didn't buy the
Brought the jar out, huh?
Brought the jar out, right? Just used the jar of olive oil. Yeah,
I remember my mom, Vaseline was her go-to for everything.
Yes.
Right.
Vaseline. And I was like, wait a minute now.
That's right. Well, yeah, that's me.
That was
Vaseline. It's still a go-to. You don't use Vaseline, Betty?
Oh, I use Vaseline. I just don't use it on my hair anymore.
No. We don't use it in the hair. No, not in the hair.
Mom, growing up, it was Vaseline. She caught that.
That's the stuff you bought in the big jar.
Vaseline on and braid that.
Yes, that's the stuff.
That was it.
Alicia,
Fun
That's
fact,
so interesting
Antoinette.
that
Oh, sorry. Fun fact, Antoinette, is I actually used to put olive oil in my hair as well.
Oh,
there you
And
go.
I would definitely smell like a salad.
Right.
That's not a bad thing. Alicia, you had something going on there.
Yeah.
She might be wrestling with the baby now, though.
Yeah. Yes, I did want to say one thing in regards to language. So my little girl, she does, you know, complain sometimes when the hair's being taken out and when you're combing through it sometimes. And she has asked, why does it hurt? Why is, you know, at certain points. And I tell her, because your hair is just so powerful. It's like a superhero. And you know, so now she says, you know, my hair is a superhero, a superhero. And the bigger it is, I tell her it's just a big superhero. Like, you know, so I think language, I don't use good and bad hair. I don't use those terms. Just use your hair is just a little stronger. It's very powerful. So she does, you know, that helps as far as back to your question when you said, what advice to give, you know, an adoptive parent of a little girl, you know, definitely telling them the language.
Yeah.
Reframing it is really, yeah.
And that's definitely one of those things that, and I'm talking like I've done a lot of hair in my life, but one of those things that you need to approach with a certain amount of intentional love. You know, like talk about how this is a loving thing so that you can go out and look good and feel good, and, you know, however you say it, you know, because sometimes I think that's the piece that gets missed, you know, especially with our, you know, parents that we were born to, is that they didn't feel the compunction to tell you how much they loved you. Like they were just wrestling with you because you know you're gonna look good. I can't have you walking around the street looking like any kind of way, you know. But I think it's doubly important when we're trying to establish that connection and those bonds, that we be more mindful of the message that we're sending in this, because it could involve a little bit of, you know, tugging and a little extra work that doesn't have to be framed as, you know, this battle to get you done so you get to go to school. You know, I just give you some love before you go off to school. You know, Mac is always talking about love as like his Vaseline. And I think that's an important way to think about it. You know, it's better to put a little more on than to not put enough, especially when again, what we're trying to do is build that connection.
Yeah.
Well, I would say hold off on the Vaseline. I mean, for those who can have it, it's important.
That's true. But everybody can have love, though, Mac.
Vaseline for me led to a lot of acne. So I think,
oh, okay.
You know,
Mama used to do that to you too. Oh.
Well, I think that's an important shift, right? To talk about how hair care and skin care kind of comes into play, and the importance of the holistic, like Alicia was talking about, the whole body.
Yeah.
If you guys could talk a little bit about how you approached the whole body, you know, as
no, that's a good point. That's a good point. And hopefully, you know, these are things that we will do in shows to follow, so to speak. Because I want to spend some time on hairstyles, on maybe a whole thing on products. I mean,
and hair and scalp. Because when you talk about skin, we got to remember scalp too, because the transition over the years with things that were done to, children's hair with the perms and
Yeah.
the other chemical, even with the braids, you got to be careful. If they're braided too tight, they used to braid the hair and get the little knots around the end where the hair was braided too tight. Your scalp may be more sensitive to certain hair products, and especially the chemical treatments when we used to get the perms. That was really not a good thing for, forget about the kids, for anybody.
Yeah.
But, not because we didn't all do it, we all did it. And I think we didn't, well, another thing we didn't talk about, Alicia alluded to it, but the transition that we had in terms of the types of things that we did to our hair.
Yeah.
The pressing, the perming, remember the Jerry curl?
I remember the Jerry curl. I had a little Jerry curl going on.
Yeah.
A little messy 70s with my shirts all nasty. From
All right,
Jerry
the
curl
pillowcases were greasy. Everything was.
It was not pretty. It was not pretty.
So yeah, we went through a transition with some of the things that we did in order to assimilate,
For sure.
And sometimes in an effort we called ourselves to make life easier. I don't have to do nothing. I just spray it and go. Whatever.
I was wondering, I was in a meeting earlier, and one of the things we talked about was taking advantage of opportunities that don't always present themselves in life, right? And in a situation like this, where we're talking about Black hair care and taking care of your little Black children, are there questions you always wanted to ask? Like I remember growing up, I used to love to play in my mother's hair. And in those days, I thought her hair was just straight. Now I know that she obviously was doing some stuff that I never saw her do, so I didn't know what was happening. But I remember always playing in my mother's hair. And she never once that I can remember was like, come on, boy, please. She never once. So I mean, that's why I'm just like overwhelmed with the opportunity that we have, as family support people and as adoptive and foster parents, to help people understand that this one ritual thing that needs to get done, you want your kid to look good so they feel good. And I think it's important that we let them know that the reason I want you to, we're going to make this a part of our routine, is because I want you to feel good by looking good. And that doesn't mean I'm deciding that you should have, a bowl cut. It's like you were saying, Allison, letting the child, or maybe that was Melissa, letting the child have some input in what's going to make me feel good. And that's the message that I think it's important. I wish we would have had more families here, but I still think it's important for us as the professionals who deal with the families to understand these things so that we can share this perspective with them, which is something that is equally important as to whether or not they hear it. It's probably more powerful if they hear it from us as the people who are in their homes and in their lives, who are invited into their homes and lives. Allison.
I think one of the pieces that really speaks to me about, we've been talking a lot about language, is to also communicate that the language we use also, and the sense of empowerment that we can give our children, is giving them a sense of self-worth.
Yeah.
Right. And and to value who they are. That what I loved about that video was the section at the very end when I'm gonna butcher her words, but she said something like, if we see another girl having a problem, we help them.
Yeah.
We help them, and to say, like, and to remind them that their hair is different. Right. And I think that was really important. Like Betty, you said, like, I think it was you who said, I don't use like good or bad language.
Right.
And that is something that I've heard a lot, like, oh, that's the one with the good hair. Right. And that's a really important, I think, to start to reflect, not only within ourselves, but also with our families, like that, teaching our children to value themselves through self-love is really important. And this is just an aspect of it.
Yeah.
It's here. It's like a way, it's a very important one.
Yeah. And it's a wonderful opportunity for us as parents
And you see
to
that,
get.
yeah.
Go ahead, Antoinette.
You see the age group that she was working with, with those young ladies. It was very important for them. They're at that age where they're finding that themselves in the world and their identities, and that's a big part of it. And to feel self-confident, and I just like the way she showed them. Generally, that regardless of the texture of the length of whatever of the hair, there was basic things that they all had to do, which were similar. And even in trying to style it, she started out with some of the basic same styles and then added braids, added whatever, and I thought it was really nice. And then if you noticed, it was really a nice thing for them, and they all seem to be very pleased to be able to learn to do something with their hair that was not something that would be so out of touch for them to be able to do and be able to do on their own. And
even to think about the hair that's on their head could be beautiful.
Exactly, and that's what it was. And frankly, I said, "Whoa, I'm gonna try some of that myself." Things that she was telling, what she did with the girls, and they all seemed to be pleased, and they all were very beautiful. And I think that was a very important part of it too. That we have to reassure our children that regardless, that they're beautiful. With your texture here, with your style, with your whatever it is, that's you, that's who you are, and you're beautiful being who you are.
Yeah.
And also the fact that she brought them into a group.
Yes.
And had them work with their hair together. I can remember at one point where in the church, my mom had done that, and she had a bunch of the ladies and the young adult girls come over, and we did it. We were doing everybody's hair in her kitchen. And it was a big deal. I mean, it was a whole evening of doing hair, talking, singing, eating, all of that stuff. And it was a lot of Jerry curls during that time. So,
so there's a lot of
we was doing everybody's hair. And they all came over for us to do their hair. So it was a big thing. And just being together and admiring each other's hair and saying, yeah, that's good. And watching out for one another. It was a good way of bonding too.
Yeah. And that could have been a wonderful workshop for kids in care or kids who are adopted or foster, to just have an opportunity to, first of all, get that validation that no matter what your curl pattern is, there's stuff we can do with it. Let me show you his product. And just to have them, loving on those kids' hairs, that would be worth doing. That's 2 or 3 therapy sessions right there. You do that a few times a year, you'd be straight.
And Chester, something I do with my little one is that she has dolls, lots of dolls, but she has dolls with all different hair textures. And she has Barbie dolls with big afros, Barbie dolls with long hair, Barbie dolls with braids. So she sees herself in the toys that she plays with, and different hues. So she, brown, white, every color. And so she can look at, because that's what the world looks like. And so she, in her play, I have the world presented to her in her dolls. And so there's not an ugly doll. I have never even, honestly, never heard her say that doll is ugly or her hair is ugly. And so it just, but you have to start, if you can, you start right away when they're little.
Yeah, that's gotta get fed, that's gotta get fed. And it's something that's easy for us to overlook, how important that messaging is, especially if we don't have the mirrors.
I don't know if you saw it, Chester. That reminded me of something I saw. I thought I sent it to you, where they had a group of boys that they were teaching how to do their hair.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
I did see it.
I think it was more of a barbershop type thing.
Yes.
But that bonding and that kind of experience is both boys and girls.
Yes.
That can learn and go through that process.
Yeah.
So,
I was talking to my son, one of my youngest son, who he got his first haircut in a barbershop in Brooklyn back in the day. And it was only one time I took him because he didn't have that kind of hair, right? But years later, and he didn't tell me, he told my wife that he always remembered that trip to the barbershop. And I guess because it was all these black men and And he said that was the first time he'd heard rap music. And I thought about, I used to live in Spanish Harlem when I was a kid. And then I remember when I moved to Central Harlem, where everybody was black. And I had one of those Mary Tyler Moore moments, where I was standing there on 125th Street. I was just like, wow, it was just, and that was just a move from across town, from 117th Street and Pleasant Avenue on the east side to, Adam Clayton Powell Boulevard, on the west side. And I remember, and I wasn't a kid. I mean, I was probably maybe 18 or 19. And I just remember like, wow, seeing so many black people.
That's great. Something else we didn't talk about. That's the home do, and the professional do. The barbershop and the home. You ever try to cut your little boy's hair?
Talk about trial and error. No, you don't want to do that.
I didn't do too bad, but they didn't want me to do it no more.
That's the long and short of it. All right, we're getting close to time. I mean, that was terrific. And this is exactly what I wanted it to be, just kind of a casual sitting around the fire, sipping a little wine, telling stories, and getting to the meat of the matter. And hopefully we're going to do more of these as we go on. I want to thank you all for coming out and participating. Really appreciate it. Just in terms of attendance stuff, Donna, I don't know, you can put your last name in the chat or just tell me what it is. I can include you on the attendance. And 516, I don't know who you are at all. So if you could give me some clue, that would be great. You can put it in the chat if you like, or again, just tell me. Okay. Oh, wait, in the chat. Donna Davidson. Okay, very good. Thank you. And 516? 674? 654? Okay.
605.
I feel like saying. Anyway, thank you, Miss Alicia. Always a pleasure.
You're welcome.
And Miss Betty. I think this, again, like I said, I thought it was wonderful. It is, we do have it recorded, so we will be downloading it and putting it on the thing there. And again, for those of us that interact with families, it's so important that even if they don't hear it from us as the whole, that they hear it from you. Because again, remember, you're invited to their homes on the regular, and you have that sphere of influence. That's in your sphere of influence. And you don't have to show them how to do hair, but you could shed a little light on, giving them a little perspective on things that they might be wanting to consider, especially things that are going to pull them closer to their children. There's no better investment than that. All right. Any last words from anyone? Hey, Michelle, always glad to see you, even if I don't hear you.
Oh, one thing I just wanted to say real quick is that there's also for little ones, there's so many great like children's books now that are about like loving your hair. There's one that there's this little board book that I have for my daughter that's like called Bedtime Bonnet. So it's about like
I have that.
a kid who puts a bonnet on, right? And then there's like, I love my hair. There's just so many great, like awesome children's books for from little baby board books to 8 years old or whatever else that are out there now. We're just living in a good time for that. So
yeah. If you could send me some stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm obsessed with children's literature.
Good. We'll put a list
and
together.
I always have been. It's not like just because I have a baby thing. I'm like, I really like little kids books, but
really
I can send you things.
Okay.
Wasn't the admission to your baby shower was?
Oh yeah, yes. I made people give books. Yes. No, but it's great because people sign the books, and now she has these great little. So there's one that somebody bought that's called "I Love My Hair," and a black woman gave it to her, and they're talking about how we hope you always love your hair and all this, and it's very sweet and beautiful, and it's a message from an auntie in the book. So. All that is good. But anyway, but especially those kind of books, especially with the bonnet stuff, I think is useful if you're using a bonnet or you're using satin sheets or things like that. It helps to see yourself in those pictures. Yeah.
I think we might have to pull somebody into the hair care arena with these workshops. Maybe Melissa, we'll
I don't know nothing about I don't know what you're talking about.
But you know a lot about intention though, and that's even more valuable than having experience.
Well,
Okay, Matt.
here in Central New York, we started a children's book library, which I oversaw. And it started because I was fascinated and fixated with the literature, particularly this book from Bell Hooks, which, I mean, she's got a slew of them, Happy to Be Nappy and a bunch, but it was those books that I felt were really powerful. I mean, I was getting the books as an adult to heal my inner childhood wounds, you know? And I just think that it's been so important for me to figure out different language to replace old scripts with. And I think children's books are fantastic for that. So the library here in Central New York, which is a resource that, of course, we can share with everybody, started with a hair book. And
that's beginning to sound a lot like a summer book club thing we should be putting together. Can you imagine where we just reviewed, everybody bring in 2 books? I mean, and we just review it. We could do it, virtually. Just a children's books. I mean, that could be a great resource and
I love this.
education. Yeah, wouldn't that be a good idea?
Very good. Yeah.
Yeah, let's put
and that so before we go, of course, we did have one last clip. I think it might be a little too late to show it. I'm not sure, but it's also
I don't want to. It is sweet though.
It's so sweet, and it was a book originally before it became an animated clip. Hair Love by Matthew Cherry, is it?
I'm not sure, but let's definitely talk about this summer book read thing, because that'll be very valuable for our families and for the that's such a key area. You think? Well, we'll talk about it. They will send out a special invitation to all the people who volunteer.
You can invite everybody to your next events committee meeting.
Yeah. That's true, because we do need things coming up. But that's a great idea. I think. All right, everybody. Thank you all for coming out. Look at the little face. Thank you all for coming out.
Yeah.
Brooklyn in the house.
Yeah, so cute.
Yeah. So again, thank you all for coming out. Really appreciate it. I hope you got something out of it. And please remember how much influence we have as family support people. There's a lot we can do. We don't have to, tear down the buildings. There's a lot we can do because people are inviting us into their homes. And that's a huge gift. So, all right, y'all.
All right.
Have a good night.
Okay.
Good night.
See you next time.
Good night.
Stay safe.
Let me stop this
Good night,
recording. See
everybody.
if I do this right. Good night, everybody. How do you stop the recording? Oh, there it is.